We're talking today about a digital ledger, right? Let's make it clear. We're not talking about replacing everything else that's out there, okay? This is not a hostile takeover, as one might say. So what we're proposing is introducing this incredibly powerful tool, the DLT, that will unleash all kinds of opportunity and help us to rid ourselves of the paper bondage that we're in today. I also want to mention this API. The API is central, okay? The API, Application Programming Interface. You're going to hear a lot more about that as time goes on. AI is artificial intelligence, big data out there. This is paper, okay, fine. Optical character recognition, yes, you still have to have something of it. And the Internet of Things, this is everything else. Quickly, IOTA is involved with Zebra Technologies, and those are the little printer scanner people out in the warehouses out everywhere. API, API, think of that of the USB. That's like your plug and play, kind of concept here, okay? That's kind of what that does. Now, real quick, and this is one about my last slide here, and then we're going to start talking about IOTA. All right, so this is a concept diagram, okay? So don't take it literally. Let's go, I heard a word, literarily, okay? It's to paint the picture. These are the elements of it. And what we did, remember before, the shipper, whoever it was, the importer, OEM, that was the center. So that's moved to the side here, right? In this, and what's in the center is our API, our plug and play tool. Okay, so what happens is everybody plugs. Two aspects to this are very important. Everybody plugs in, to the system or the cloud by this API, and all the information is there. And then not only that, it's placed once reliably and from the best source. Okay, so carrier, HTS, whatever, it's once, it's there, it's good, okay? And it's circulating, is a way of expressing it, that anyone who needs it, again, it's permissioned, you have to have authorization to get it. Anyone who needs it can get it at any time if they're on the network, okay? Now, we have to start asking ourselves, what world would we like to live in, right? And you start seeing, hopefully, how much of a benefit this can be. Okay, guys, we're gonna have time for questions at the end. I'm sure a lot of things may come up in your mind. If they do, jot them down, and we'll be sure to get to them. If not today, then certainly as a follow-up. So let's talk about IOTA. So a couple words here just to introduce or lay some things. I'm going to tell you my impressions of IOTA, what I have seen, and then I'm going to hand it over to Jens, and Jens will tell us a lot more. So it affords incredibly unique benefits. It's feeless technology. That means the business model can be based on micropayments. That's something else we can get into here. But you're focused on the business of it all. And here's a nice diagram I saw last week. If you're buying your cup of coffee with IOTA here, that's the currency. It's $3, and that's what you pay. However, if you were all aware of Visa, you get your Starbucks. There are fees involved in that. 7 cents here. Some go to the credit card, company, and however that gets played out. Little whatever charges there. However, there's other currencies. If you're using Bitcoin, it's $17.30. Remember the transaction fees that had to be paid before. IOTA is feeless, okay? It's decentralized, it's R&D focused, and it's a foundation, out of, I'll let Jens tell you more, but they're passionate about the technology, they're humble, they've acknowledged their mistakes that have happened in the past since 2017. They're reflecting on those. They're focused on building structures and getting the tech right, and their vision is to be their bridge building to become the DLT backbone for the machine economy. So these are some of the highlights here. This is why I think we really need to turn some time to Jens there. Okay, Jens, let's turn it over to you, my friend. Okay, so here's questions. Okay, thank you.
We can get to those to the end, but
yeah.
Were you going to do a video too, Chris?
Actually, Jens, are you on? Are you there?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, and thanks for bringing me into this. So The little story that I wanted to share with you today is actually a story I shared in the World Customs Organization a while back, where they invited us to talk. And I represent the IOTA Foundation, which is a non-for-profit foundation in Germany. We are spread all over the world. What we have is an open source technology, a distributed ledger technology, or what most people call a blockchain, but it's actually not. But it has the same features, and we have partnered up. And I won't talk that much about the technology, but I want to talk more about how we use the technology, because it's like the internet. It's more interesting to talk about how we use it for than how it actually works. And we partnered up in this special project here with Kenyan revenue authorities. So we've been working in East Africa and with Trademark East Africa, which is basically an organization like the World Bank in the region that focuses on improving trade. So we partnered up with them to get this off the ground, use the technology to improve trade processes in the region. And what we've done is, maybe next slide,
Sure.
the way we started this out was that we yeah, sorry about that. It's late here in Copenhagen, and apparently my kids want to join in, but I think that should be fine.
Yeah.
So we asked them a question, and we asked everybody in a supply chain. We actually took flour industry. We brought them all together, and we said, listen, imagine if the supply chain was just one organization. You're all working for the same organization. How would you share your information? How would you work together? And we actually physically locked them into a room and asked them to do this. And we found out, and this is to your point before, Chris, we found out that, they were sharing a lot of information with each other. They were sending emails to each other asking, where is my container? Or, where are the goods now? They were rekeying information into each other's systems with all the faults that came with that. And when we mapped this out, we really understood the power of having a ledger where you have one truth that everybody could reuse and piggyback from that data that the trader or the freight forwarder or whoever is providing information about the trade. And we have a little video that I hope might be able to give you an idea of how this works and why this is becoming a very powerful tool in cross-border trade.
Hopefully you can
Kenya is one of the biggest exporting countries of flowers in Africa. As of 2019, an estimate of 180,000 tons were exported from Kenya, and this roughly translates to an average of 7 million stems a day.
When you look at the flower business, it is highly interconnected, and flowers must be at the right place at the right time. Any small delays along the supply chain means that everything can just go wrong.
Currently, for our members, for them to export a single shipment from their farm to their customer, they have to experience or go through an average of 200 different types of communications. So this includes phone calls, emails, commercial invoices, certificates, and which is really a challenge.
We want to make it simple for businesses to actually trade better so that they focus on their core business. So if it's a flower farm, their core business is to grow flowers and sell the flowers, and therefore make the entire pipeline work for them to ensure that the flower or the fruit gets to the market in the shortest time possible. TLIP stands for the Trade Logistics Information Pipeline. This is our concept that we've worked together with stakeholders in the region. So this would be private sector stakeholders and government stakeholders to come up with a framework that will enable ease of trading in certain commodities, mainly commodities we do export. but also commodities we do import as well. The ability to create what we are calling coordinated frameworks of operations between everyone on the supply chain, and particularly the government agencies.
We are still doing paper documents as opposed to e-documents, and the initiative by TLIP to ensure that we simplify the business and reduce the paperwork in the supply chain is very important.
If you're sending anything from Kenya to maybe the Netherlands, right now we have to share those documents manually or through the plane. And most of the time those documents get lost on the way, and then the cargo gets stuck there. There's a lot of frustrations with the agencies. But now with this kind of initiative, all that will be visible both on this side and the other side as well. And across the chain here, and across the chain across the board.
In our industry as a carrier, every minute counts. 10 to 20 minutes is something significant if you compile it in something to do like a year. If the process is well implemented and we save on those bits of 30 minutes, in a year you'll see our cost of running business is very fair. As an airline, the uniqueness about the TLIP project is the government will embrace e-technology, which is dominant in the market now. It's good also for archives, as it's a virtual space. You don't have to keep a whole room of documents.
The technology we use with a distributed ledger, permissionless, it's about bringing trust to all these actors so they trust when they exchange their data. The cross-border trade cost has enormous effect on the cost of goods. The cost of goods has enormous effect of how many jobs and how much we can buy. The TLIP project that we're working on will have enormous impact on traders in Kenya. It shortens the time it takes to cross borders. It takes out failures. It makes it much cheaper for the products overseas.
For us, the biggest benefit is Eastern Africa, or the African continent, starts getting more integrated into global supply chains, which is a big thing for us to be able to trade fairly and competitively with other people across the world.
Yeah, thanks for the patience. Sometimes it's nice to see things in live to get a sense of how it works. I hope it gets something. But I just want to talk, maybe next slide. So what this platform does, and what we were challenged to build, was these 5 key design principles. First of all, it should save time, which we were talking about.
Wait a minute.
I think it starts again.
Can we start another webinar?
I think you need to, yeah, thanks.
Did that fix it? Okay.
It did, perfect. So there were, some values that we were asked to, or design principles, and of course, save time is an important one. And what we're saving time here and cost efficiently is that you don't rekey information in, data don't get lost. You don't have to find things again. Paper can be stuck on desks and so forth, and that will stop the process and be costly to everyone. And the importance here was to make one truth visible. That means that, and this is how we use the technology, is if you put some data into the technology, that data cannot be altered by somebody else. But you also allow those who have permission to see that data. So let's say I say the container is at one spot. Well, if somebody else is reporting that container to be another place and at a later time, that is the latest truth, because you have a time stamp on any data that goes in, and who said what, and everybody can piggyback on that information at any time. So you get one truth across the value chain. That's why we talked about, imagine supply chains as was an organization where you all have this one truth of what's the latest thing that happened. We were also challenged that this is data from different organizations. So we didn't want to have a centralized owner. We wanted it to be decentralized. Nobody should sit in the middle and own this. So the system itself is actually developed by the government and paid for by the government. But the data that everybody holds, people stay and keep that data under their own ownership, and then they select to share that with certain organizations, but it's not uploaded to a platform. The technology only points at where you can find the data, and then it tells whether that data is the original data that they reported. So that's the only thing it does. It doesn't create a new middleman in the middle who knows and owns everything. It's decentralized the way it is used. And I think another important point is that, you know, the current infrastructure, the current digital information, those infrastructures stays in place. We don't replace that. We just add on top of that a very thin layer for sharing that information and anchoring the truth of this information, meaning the integrity of the data. So that's the only thing we do on top of this. So what we built is APIs, as Chris mentioned before, with all the government agencies, the border agencies, and also abilities for traders, so they can all connect to this system and start to share and piggyback and fetch data from each other. So they don't have to rekey data in, but they can just pick it up directly, right, from the source, and always point back and says, this is the source, this is the organization that told us that this is the, you know, the origin of the product, or this is where the product is now, or this is the certificate I need from the Kenyan government to show when I get to destination market, and so on. So you have all that digitalized and trusted. Maybe next slide. And that is, you know, everybody, and this is the brilliant things about this. To some extent, everybody benefits because whether you're the trader or the freight forwarder or you're the government, you all get efficiency gains out of this ability to fetch data from each other. And maybe next slide, if we just take the customs themselves, we ask them, what do they see as areas that, why would they want this technology? And some of the most important ones was, you know, early detection of information or lack of information, which allow them to do risk assessments early on. They can also better detect if you know, if it's illicit trade, because they actually have the whole traceability on the system from who uploaded the information, when, and so on, so they can detect that, and that will help the trade facilitation, meaning the whole facilitation cross borders, and therefore bring down cost, which is benefit to the country as such for exporting and importing. It will take down the cost of trade. Next slide, please, Chris. So I had some screenshots here of the pilot solution that we were using, just to give you a sense of this. And I think maybe take the next slide, then I can explain just the principles. So what you see here is an event on the left side, you know, commercial invoice or any certificate and so on. And you have a timestamp on when it was first requested or uploaded. And you have organization who provided this information. Then you can have the information itself, which, you know, could be a document. And we work with all kind of formats, whether it's a XML format or it's a Word document or whatever. But when you get that information there, we certify it on the blockchain, meaning that it can't be altered later on. If you need to alter it, you need to upload it in a version 2, and then you inform all participants, this is the version 2, which is the new truth. But you can't, you know, take away the fact that you uploaded a version 1 at some point, and there's a proof that what version 1 was. So in that way, you update, but you can't delete. So these are the, I would say, very simple, basic principles, but it becomes very powerful once it starts to go across organizational boundaries, and you share that, and you start to trust those kind of data from each other. And that's basically what the system does. It becomes a powerful ecosystem builder. This was very brief, my introduction to what we're doing and what we're building in East Africa with governments and how we use the technology. Thanks, Chris, for the words.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Jens. So just to recap a couple of things, and then Mark, if you'd like to, we could, field any questions that are there. Well, a couple of things, just setting expectations from DLT. We've kind of mapped out the benefits here: trust, transparency, scale, scalability, IOTA. You guys are getting the details on that. They're positioned to really take it by storm. Provenance, place of origin, derivation, where did something come from? History of ownership, the records, how important can that be, right? Data protection, you have confidence that the right people get the right information, that they're allowed to see, suppliers, what you communicate with a supplier, of course it might be different, will be different from what you communicate with a regulator to keep your audits focused, right, as you go. Data visualization features, you're going to have incredible access to all this information that's there. It's going to give you a much deeper intel on what's going on in your supply chain, and you're going to automate transactions. My boss prior to when I was in Honda said, this is going to really automate a lot of the accounting function and kind of do what Excel did for the bookkeeping function, which was years ago. Used to be a lot of people managing the books, but now, through Excel, everyone does it themselves. So some concerns out there: laws and regulations need to be updated, standards need to be established. And that's kind of really why we're making this outreach here, folks, is that, we need for you to get involved, because the more people we have at the table, the clearer the picture will be of what the needs need to be, okay, and what needs to be established. So it is important. Please, leaving this today, get involved somehow. I'm more than welcome, between Mark and ourselves here in Southern California. I'd really like to establish a kind of a foundation for that, if we could, to really work through this and develop some projects. But anyway, there's a lot of benefits here, and as you saw, some of those laws and regs are getting addressed. Some from last week from the webinar: join a consortium, don't do a POC in a silo was one of the things that they mentioned. Don't go off and do this on your own. Where we go together as a group to really kind of hash it out, that's kind of where things will be at. We need to have standards. Technology is not the problem nowadays, folks. It's about we kind of on the business side, we have to have our collective act together here, to get things going. There's training courses available. The WTO has some of those, and I'm going to post these on my website here, certainly for you to have this available. And quite frankly, today I was thinking, this PowerPoint is just really a big deck, through pictures, trying to illustrate things. It gets pretty large. So I'm going to put it on the website, and we'll certainly make it available to you. IOTA Manager and training courses are certainly available. And so, hey guys, the next step is for you to come aboard, come on the train, the blockchain train, as you call it.
Thanks, Chris.
So,
I mean,
sure.
that makes perfect sense, and that really ties into the question that Andre Cruz has asked, which is, what if Company X decides they want to join the IOTA's DLT platform? Does it then need to convince all of its members and its supply chain to join that platform as well? I mean, how do we get on board and bring along others with us?
Yeah, that's a good question. Jens, do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, I'm happy to, and I think it's spot on, Andre. I mean, you're seeing the problem here. The problem is not technology. I often say using blockchain is a team sport, because it only makes sense once you're a team. And I think it's extremely powerful what we see in East Africa with the government there, because the government can kind of ask everybody else to get engaged if they want to, cross the border. So that's a very powerful way of kickstarting that kind of ecosystem. But I do see, and we talk, normally when we do digital development, we used to talk minimal viable products. When we talk digital development of blockchains, we talk about minimal viable ecosystem. And that means exactly your point, who would you need to partner with to at least get some value out of starting to share that kind of data with them. So it's really not the technology that is the issue here. I think it's bringing partners together that will be the long term.
Well, Jens, since you have a background in philosophy, maybe you can help answer this. Why can't these groups come together? Like the DCSA has just announced that 5 of their 9 major players have agreed to some standards for track and trace, but that means 4 of the 9 still haven't. So if everybody sees the value, why can't they play together well in the sandbox?
Yeah, I know your philosophy provides the answer there. It might be the market and interest, right, that provide that answer. Some still benefits from what there is.
Maybe it's psychology or something needed. I don't know, but one thing important to realize. So clearly, okay, yes, to enjoy the benefits of DLT, one has to be participating themselves in a DLT. I would say there's a lot of benefits to everyone being perhaps on the same platform. However, Customs has made it very clear, talking about US Customs here, that there must be interoperability, okay? And that's where the API comes in. So in other words, in fact, yesterday I was on another call, Customs said that they've made some progress with, in fact, I think there's a standards group, the W3C, and there's standards out there that Customs has promoted, US Customs, with respect to interoperability. And if I understand it correctly, the W3C is basically embracing the proposal that Customs has provided, and it will be a standard. Okay,
so that's the Customs 21st Century Framework Standard. Yes. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, okay. No, actually, it's a little broader than that, Mark. So it's along the lines of saying this very broadly, interoperability. So in other words, for Customs to enjoy the benefits of communicating with Customs in the future, you can use any platform, okay? In other words, you could use IOTA, you could use a Hyperledger, you could use Ethereum if you want to, right? And, anyway, I'm not sure we're doing justice to the question, but in any case, the short answer,
there's still a lot of work. There's still a lot of work for everyone to get together to do that. But to Jens' point, that's kind of interesting that if the customs authorities are the ones that make the rules, they have the authority to say play by these rules, and that then propels people to join the platform, the DLT, right?
Right, but so Mark, what Customs is saying is that they're not going to mandate a certain technology, right? They're not.
But is that the kiss of death? I
no.
mean, is not okay.
No, it breathes life into it. Okay.
Okay.
And it might be for one particular dream that someone might have had to say, hey, we're not going to Customs saying, hey, Customs, champion IOTA. They're not going to entertain it at all. But they're saying it's open and it's free, okay? And we, this is beneficial to everyone, okay? So
good. Any more questions from our audience there? This has been very interesting. I think you've answered the other questions about how incorrect data is fixed with versioning. And it also seems like it would also decrease the number of incidents of bad data, because you can't mistake a transpose a 7 for a 1 or something like that, as one might do on a physical piece of paper. So
right,
quite interesting. Yeah.
And so I think while people might be formulating any questions there, I think it's, I would very much like to, maybe, to Andre's question, I mean, we IOTA is finalizing some of their tech developments very soon over the next few months. And I would very much be interested in, getting a group together to hash out some of the standards there. In the near future.
And the Foreign Trade Association would be excited to be, the catalyst from which around these interests come together.
Absolutely,
so, yeah,
absolutely,
good,
Mark.
good.
That'd be awesome.
No, this has been very informative, Jens. Thank you for a late night on your part. Appreciate that. And it was, Chris, it was good to see you again. And I want to thank you both for sharing this interesting information with us. And if you, as the listener, are interested in similar programs, we encourage you to consider membership in the Foreign Trade Association. Again, we have a first sale webinar coming up on 4/21, a getting back to work in a post-COVID world on 4/28, forced labor on 4/29, and then World Trade Week with again, acting executive assistant commissioner at CBP, John Leonard, where maybe we can ask him about what customs is doing with DLT. And then also Dan Solis, who's assistant commissioner for FDA, who's got to be able to track some of these things more effectively. So lots of exciting things coming up in the Foreign Trade Association. And with that, I'll wish Jens a good evening and the rest of you a very good day.